Bucky again with Top Dollar Home Offer. We buy houses now, Tulsa, and we wanted to talk to you today about rebuilding credit, right? You went through the process of fixing your credit. All of a sudden, you don't have anything on your credit report. They pull a report and says, you have no credit. We can't give you a loan. If you want to go down the path of having credit, here's some tips and tricks that you can use to reestablish credit. So in our last videos, we talked about how to dispute bad items off your credit report and how that process works. You can go to our website, download those free resources. And again, why are we talking about this on a real estate channel here? We want to help educate you guys in all areas, right? If we go out and we buy your house and we relieve you of that burden, you still have other burdens, financial burdens. Maybe you want to restart later. Maybe you get married and your wife's like, you have no credit. What do we do? So here's some tricks and tips that you can use to establish yourself back as a credit-worthy person in order to borrow money, right? If you want to go down that path. We suggest if you can pay cash for things, that's better, especially cars. It takes a while, but delay that gratification and you can get there. But if you want to rebuild credit, here's some things to do. Here's some things to stay away from or things to be aware of, right? So the first thing is you can go on to, say, Credit Karma or wherever. You can get a free kind of snaps of where you're at. They'll suggest these credit cards and say, hey, for $500 deposit, we'll give you a credit card and it's going to cost you $100 a year to have that card, right? So that's one way you can do that. It's still a secured card, which doesn't really look as well against a lender when they're looking at it. It is a line item of credit, so you could use that method, right? Another method that's worked for many people is go to your local bank. Every city has local banks, typically. If you're in any size of city, there's a bank there, right? They want for you to deposit money into their bank. So you could go there and ask them what their minimum CD is, right? Meaning, hey, I want to buy a CD from this bank. It means you're going to give them this money and they're going to hold it for a period of time, right? So what does that mean? Why do you want to do this? Well, when you buy a CD from a bank, that is a tangible asset that they have in their vault, I guess you could say, that if you wanted to borrow against it, you could, right? So let's say Bank One here in town has $1,000 minimum CD, right? You could take $1,000 of your money, it has to be cash, right? And give them that money. You're going to draw a little bit of interest on this, right? But that's not what this is about. This is about establishing credit. So now you can take that CD and go over to the loan officer and say, hey, I would like to pull out a secured loan against the value of the CD, right? And they're going to say, well, we have it in our possession. If you default, we're going to take this $1,000 and we're going to be ahead, right? And we're going to get interest off you. So it's in their bank's best interest to do this, okay? So let's recap that. You're going to take $1,000 or find out whatever the minimum CD is. It's $500, $750, usually they're $1,000. You're going to take that cash and you're going to go to the bank and you're going to open up a CD. Then you're going to go over to the loan officer and say, I want to borrow money against that CD, okay? They'll give you a loan and you'll walk out of the bank maybe with a little bit less than $1,000 because of maybe some fees or whatever, or they'll add that to the value of the loan. So you may borrow $1,000, but you'll pay back, a little over that if you paid it back instantly because of the fees that the banks charge for processing loans, okay? You need to have this be reported to your credit agency. So we want to make sure every bank does that, but you could ask them, hey, are you going to report this when I pay this on time each and every month or not on time to the credit reporting agencies? And they say, yes, we always do that. So you borrow that money, you take it from one bank, and now what you can do is you have your $1,000 back, right? You walked in with $1,000, you walked out with $1,000, and you walked out with a secured debt saying, hey, I owe this bank here $1,000. Now what you can do is you can go over to another local bank, right? And the reason why we're doing this, it's going to show 3 new accounts that are opened up where you're going to establish good payments, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go to the other bank and you're going to open up a CD with them and borrow the money against that CD. Okay, so you give them the $1,000, get $1,000 back, right? And you're going to do this 3 times, okay? And then you're going to hold this loan for the next 3 months, at least. 6 to 9 months is preferred because it shows enough times reported to the agency that you are paying on debt. And so you don't want to pay it all off instantly. So you want to go and make that payment on time. I would suggest the first month make a little bit more than the minimum payment, right? So maybe you did a 1-year loan or a 2-year loan. So that could be, I don't know, $50 maybe, or whatever it may be. And pay a little bit more. Pay like 10% more than the minimum payment. The second month, pay 20% more. The third month, pay a little bit more. So now you're establishing that, hey, not only can you borrow money, but you like to pay back more, right, than your minimum payment. So that shows you're really serious about, paying debts back. You're willing to pay more than the minimum payment. So if you do this over a 9-month period, now you're going to have 3 new items on your credit report that's showing that you're a good paying client to those banks. So that establishes yourself a credit, and you can start paying each one of those off using that money that you originally had, right? So you're just taking that money and moving it a couple times, but it's allowing you to establish 3 different vendors that you borrow money for, and you're showing good payment. Now, if you default on this thing, it's not gonna help you at all, right? So the purpose of this is to make sure that you're able to reestablish credit, and it's not costing you a lot of money, right? It's some time. Everything's online anymore. I mean, you can have the automated payments set up to pay every month, and just go through that process and borrow that 3 times. That establishes 3 new agencies or vendors or banks or whatever you want to call it, 3 new loans that's in your name. After that, you can go back to that bank and say, hey, I'd like to borrow a little bit more money. You can keep my bond there or my CD there and borrow more money. So you've established some credit, and then it shows an unsecured loan, right? So we went from secured to unsecured, right? If you have a vehicle that's paid off, you can do the same thing. You can take a title in there and borrow money against that. So these are all different ways that you can borrow money and establish credit at the same time without putting yourself in a lot of debt, okay? So you're not taking on new debt. You're not taking, out a credit card that's going to cost you a lot of fees. It's going to cost you some interest, but interest rates are so cheap right now, it's kind of a moot point. If you're wanting to rebuild credit, these are some great steps in doing that. I hope this helped. We'll try to talk some more about this, but our focus here is We Buy Houses Now Tulsa, but we also help people, right? So if you have other questions about life, about faith, finances, all these things go into owning real estate. It's all part of it, right? So I hope you enjoyed this. Take care. See you next time.